One of the most underrated but most important parts of SMS marketing is having good deliverability. And honestly, if there's anything that I've learned over the past 3 years of scaling 2 software companies in the SMS marketing space, it's this. The texting industry is seeing the biggest changes it has ever seen. The TCPA is getting stricter with A2P registration requirements. Apple just introduced inbox placement for text messages with their iOS 26 update. And what both of those things mean is that SMS deliverability is the single biggest factor that's going to determine how much revenue you generate with text marketing this year. So in this video, I'm going to cover every reason your texts aren't reaching your customers, whether they're landing in spam, getting filtered by carriers, or never delivering at all, and most importantly, exactly what you could do to fix it. So first, let's talk about what's actually happening with SMS deliverability in 2026. When most people have a deliverability problem, the first thing that they do is Google it, and you'll find the same advice everywhere. Don't use spam words, don't put links in your first text, make sure your number is registered, warm it up before you scale, get your opt-out language right, don't send too many texts at once, and the list goes on. And all of that is legitimate advice. But here's the thing, none of it actually solves the root of the problem for most businesses, and I want to show you why. The reason your texts are struggling to land has a lot to do with something that most SMS marketers never think about. And that's the fact that in the United States, there are actually 2 completely separate text message infrastructures. There's SMS and then there's iMessage. The first one is SMS, and this is what most businesses are using right now. When you send an SMS, your message travels through the carriers like AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile. And those carriers are literally intercepting your message before it even reaches your lead's phone. They're checking if your campaign is registered with A2P 10DLC, whether your business has an EIN number, whether you're in a high-risk industry like finance, insurance, or real estate, whether your copy contains certain flagged keywords, whether you're using links, whether your sending volume looks suspicious, how fast you're sending, how often messages get replied to. Every single text goes through that protocol. And if they don't like any of those things, your message never arrives. The second infrastructure is iMessage, and this is Apple's own messaging network. And Apple took a completely different approach. When you send an iMessage, your message goes through Apple's servers, not the carriers. AT&T never sees it, and Verizon never touches it. Apple lets the message through, and instead of intercepting it on the way in, they put the decision in the hands of their users. If someone thinks it's spam, they could report it, but the message gets there first. So on one side, you have SMS, which is intercepted, inspected, and filtered before your lead ever sees it, with a list of requirements that gets longer every year. And on the other side, you have iMessage, where your messages land on your lead's phone every single time, and the only person who could stop it is them. Now, here's why this matters so much right now. 58% of Americans use iPhones, and closer to 80% if your offer targets Gen Z or millennials. So think about your lead list for a second. More than half the people on it are iPhone users, and there's a very good chance that you're sending every single one of them an SMS, a message that has to survive carrier filtering, pass registration checks, avoid flag keywords, all of it, when those exact same people could be receiving an iMessage instead, which bypasses that entire protocol completely and guarantees a 100% deliverability rate. That's the root problem for most SMS deliverability problems in 2026. Not the keywords, not the registration, it's that they're sending SMS to contacts who could be sent iMessages instead, and they don't even know about it. So what do you actually do about this? The first thing that you need to figure out is which one of your leads are on iPhones and which ones are on Android. Because once you know that, you could route your iPhone contacts to iMessage and remove the deliverability problems from those texts entirely. And for most businesses, that's going to be more than half their list. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this inside one of my own text campaign workflows. All right, so what we have up on the screen here is a text message marketing campaign that we use internally to send texts out to all of the new leads that opt into our funnel via our ads or via our websites directly. And what I want you to know, and something that I've started to add to every single one of my funnels that has a text message component to them, is I'm always now checking whether my lead has an iPhone or has an Android. Android phone. And I do this by using this check iMessage or SMS step that you could see right here. So this step is actually something that SendBlue's API, which I'm going to be tagging in the comment section or the description section of this video, now offers. They basically have now given us the way to see which phone our leads use. And this is so important, because what this is going to allow me to do, if I check a little further down in my funnel or my workflow, is that it's going to check what phone my lead is on. If iMessage is true here, so if my lead does have an iPhone, you're going to see that we're going to add an iPhone tag to that contact so that later, if we ever want to send them back another text, we'll know exactly what device they're using. And most importantly, you'll then see that we're able to start sending iMessages rather than SMSs in our workflow to those iPhone contacts. And on the flip side, if my workflow wasn't able to detect an iPhone or wasn't able to detect iMessage, it's going to fall under this branch where we're going to add an Android tag, even though this could be any other type of phone that accepts SMS, like a Google phone or whatever. And it's actually going to send them an SMS instead, because obviously here it cannot be sending iMessages. So once this runs, your text campaigns are separated into two groups. Your iPhone contacts go through iMessage and your Android contacts stay on SMS. And from that point, everything becomes a lot simpler, because for the majority of your list, you're not dealing with the carrier filtering at all anymore. Now, routing your iPhone contacts to iMessage solves the carrier problems for the majority of your list. But there's still one thing that determines whether you stay out of spam long term. And most people have never even thought about this as a deliverability metric. It's replies. Not delivery rates, not open rates, but replies. Because think about it. On the SMS side, carriers use reply data to determine whether you're a real sender or a business blasting text into the void. And on the iMessage side, we already talked about how Apple puts a lot of the decision in the hands of the user. Well, a user who feels like they're in a real conversation isn't going to report you as junk. They're going to reply. So whether you're on SMS or iMessage, replies are the signal that keeps you out of spam. The more you get, the more trusted your number becomes, and the better every future text you send delivers. It compounds. And it works the other way too. A number that sends and never gets a response is going to get harder and harder to send over time. So the way to keep yourself out of spam long term isn't just about which infrastructure you're on. It's about designing every campaign you send to get a reply. So if we go back to our text campaign workflow, let's take a look at exactly how we'd write the copy of a text campaign to maximize its chances of getting a reply. Okay, so if the goal is to get a reply from our lead, and that's what's going to increase our SMS deliverability on the long term, there's really a simple framework that we have to respect. It's a two-step framework, okay? First step is you got to introduce yourself in a very specific format that we're going to be looking at in literally just a couple of seconds. And the second step is you have to ask a question to your lead via text that is stupidly easy to answer to, and we have to engineer our copy to do that, and I'm going to show you that also in just a second. So let's go down our iMessage path here. Let's consider that our contact does have an iPhone, and I want you to see the first text message that we're going to send to them, okay? The exact copy of the introduction that you have to send to your lead is this. Hey, prospect name, this is Tristan with company name, okay? Don't make it fancy here. Copy this exact format. The reason that we're doing this is we got to quickly introduce ourselves to the carriers and to the algorithm so that they recognize who we are and which company we are sending the text from. Specifically for iPhone users, if they have iOS 26 on their phone with the latest update, if you use this exact copy, Siri could suggest your contact name and your contact photo to the lead when you send out your first text message outreach. And that is huge because your lead now has access to more information about you and knows that you are more legitimate than just a normal looking text from an unknown number, right? So everything that we could do to gain more trust from our leads, such as introducing ourselves in this specific format and getting our name and our picture suggested to our contact, the more likely that they are going to reply to our text, okay? So whether you're using iMessage or whether you're using SMS, if we look at the copy here, the first line will always be the same thing. Just use this exact format. Now, the second part of the framework, like I said, is to ask a question. So let's go look at the second text that we're going to be sending to our lead, okay? Once again, no matter what the niche is, no matter what you are offering, no matter what type of campaign this is, if it's for an appointment reminder, if it's for an event or a webinar, if it's for opt-in, okay? You need to ask them a question that is stupidly easy for them to answer, and you need to relate it to whatever last action they might have taken with your business. Maybe that they just booked something, maybe they just opted into something, maybe they just watched something. In my case, this This is when leads opt in to our website or to our ad and basically book a call. So what I'm going to say is, saw you booked a call for Tuesday, which is Tuesday. I could send you a demo video here. Yeah. Notice this little yeah at the end here. Okay. This is intentional. I am literally telling my lead what I want them to reply to me, which is yes or yeah. I'm making it stupidly easy for them to say yes to me. And that is what is going to guarantee a reply and what is going to increase my SMS deliverability on the long term, because I will have leads replying yes to me and getting a conversation going on text message with my phone number. Okay. I want to give you some other examples of what you could use. Let's say you're in real estate. I got your form about selling your home in New Hampshire. It needs to be sold by April. Yeah. Right. This is information that the lead probably would have given you in the form that they filled out when they saw your ad or when they opted in. And you're basically just engineering a question based on the information that they gave you about selling their house in April and making it stupidly easy for them to just answer yes to you, because that's what's going to save your deliverability in 2026. You could see this for coaching agencies and gyms. Just got your request for the nutrition playbook. The playbook is in your inbox now. Yeah, right? Super, super easy. And you would be doing the exact same thing on your SMS campaign, right? You would also be using this exact same question in that copy, as you could see right here. Now, where iMessage differs from SMS in the way that you'd write this copy is a couple of things, right? The first thing that you might have noticed is that with iMessage, we were able to send 2 text messages instead of 1. Once again, iMessage isn't regulated the same way as SMS. With SMS, you're pretty much forced to send 1 text message because you're charged per text sent, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, it would be extremely weird if you sent this exact campaign to your lead. The first text message would say, hey, prospect name, this is Tristan with company name, and you'd say you can reply stop to opt out. And then in your second text, you would say the same thing, because the opt-out language is required on all of your texts before a lead replies, right? So this wouldn't make sense. That's why we oftentimes have to write just 1 chunk of text in your SMS campaigns versus iMessage, you get to write 2. And the also very neat thing that we did with iMessage is we added a little delay between our text messages right here, right? This is going to make typing indicators pop up on your lead's phone, which is a huge trust signal. They're going to think that a real human is typing, and therefore they're much more likely to reply because you seem like a genuine person, not a system reaching out to them. And that brings up the question, which copy is your lead more likely to respond to? And I think it's pretty obvious here. iMessage copy is much easier to interact with, more easy to engage with, okay? I've split tested this exact workflow across thousands of conversations and thousands of leads, and the data is telling me the same thing every single time. On the top here is my iMessage reply rate. On the bottom here is my SMS reply rate. I'm always seeing 2 times the amount of replies when I'm sending iMessages instead of SMSs. We're talking about the same text messages. I'm doing the same thing. I'm introducing myself. I am asking a closed-ended question, but just people are much more likely to reply to iMessages because it seems more genuine, seems more human. You're not regulated. You could add the double text and all of that. We could also isolate these for you to see. My iMessage reply rate for the last month on that exact copy was 77%, and my SMS copy for the last month on this exact one right here was 39%, right? That's a 2x increase on those iMessages. And honestly, these results make complete sense when you think about everything we just covered. The iMessage version of that text got 2 times more replies, and there's only really 2 reasons for that. The first is that I know with confidence that every single one of those texts that I sent actually got delivered because they went through Apple's network, not through the carriers. And second, the message itself had no signs of being automated. It came as 2 separate texts. It asked a closed-ended question. I didn't have to limit my industry's keywords, and it had no opt-out language at the bottom. It read like a real person genuinely reaching out. The SMS version, on the other hand, had to survive the entire carrier protocol before it even reached my lead's phone. And the text that did get through arrived as 1 chunk of text, colored green with an opt-out sentence at the bottom. The copy was designed the same way. It had the same intro, the same question, but none of this really matters when the message itself is already signaling marketing blast before your lead even reads it. And that's really the whole point of this video. SMS has its place, and if you follow the right practices, it will perform better. But when you're sending it to someone who could have received an iMessage instead, you're making your job harder than it needs to be. You're putting your messages through a system that's designed to filter it when there's a direct line available to you for more than half of your list right now today. Detect the device, route accordingly, Design for replies, that's how deliverability works in 2026. Now, understanding how deliverability works is only half of it. The other half is having the right platform to actually put this into practice, because none of this works if your texting tool can't send iMessages, detect devices, and manage both campaigns from the same place. So click the video that I'll put up on the screen here where I break down the exact setup that I use so that you could start routing your contacts correctly, designing campaigns that get replies, and actually get your text seen. And if you're serious about making SMS work for your business this year, I'll see you over there.